This episode of Jimmy Cast features Joy Jansen of EcoDiamonds. Joy and her husband Ben started an exclusively online lab-grown diamond business several years ago because they loved the story they could tell about these special diamonds. They weren't even jewelers. I think you'll really enjoy this discussion. And I want to thank the wonderful folks at In-Store Magazine for making this podcast possible. I loved In-Store the second I picked it up many years ago. And every issue is as fresh today as the day I first saw it. And the Jewelry Store Training Institute, a weekly 10-minute training video training your team's best practices in jewelry sales and operations. Now featuring Excella Management Training. That's right. We're now training one of the most undertrained and undefined positions, your manager. Learn more and contact me at jewelrystoretraining.com. And now, here's our episode. Hey everybody, welcome to Jimmy Cast. I am so excited about this episode because we have a new person we're talking to here that is probably someone different but very interesting to all of us, and that is Joy Jansen from EcoDiamond in Little Chute, Wisconsin. Now, of course, we have our wonderful co-host, Doug Meadows. Say hi, Doug, down in Marietta, Georgia.
Hey, Jimmy. It's great to be here tonight.
Your store's closed, right?
Yep. This is going to be different. Usually we do this in the morning and we're doing it at night. But hey, it'll be a good time.
Usually we do it in the morning and we have, and I'll have coffee. And if I had coffee now, I'd be up all night. I'd be calling you. So I tell you what. So what's exciting about this episode, everybody, is that Joy and her husband, Ben, you guys were e-commerce people before you were jewelers. In fact, you don't even really define yourself as jewelers, do you? Or tell us your story. How did you get into this?
So it is true that we initially were more geared towards e-commerce. He and I kind of grew up in the era where e-commerce was becoming a thing. And so we developed a couple of different businesses, and that started way back. But we, in 2011, discovered the opportunity for lab-created diamonds. Mm-hmm. And initially, the allure was the technology. But as we studied more and learned more about the industry and figured out just all the beautiful properties and all the beautiful advantages to having a lab-created diamond versus a naturally mined diamond, it just kind of stole our hearts, and we began to focus more heavily on it.
Okay. And the reason this is so exciting to me is because so many of us independent jewelers are looking right now saying, should I get into this? A lot of them have gotten into it. A lot of them have gotten some memo diamonds in. I know there's a lot of companies out there, and Doug, you can probably attest to this as well. Some companies trying to sort of push diamonds people's way. And so your story, Doug, tell us your story now. You're just starting to get into this, correct?
Yeah. I don't know when it's been, 2 or 3 years ago when Stoller first started carrying lab-grown. Well, actually, let me back up for 2 minutes. Probably 5 or 6 years ago, I read my first article about lab-grown, but it was more for cremation. I mean, they were taking the ashes of somebody being cremated and turning it into a diamond. At the time, it was extremely expensive, and they weren't getting anything white. It was always a different color. And so, it was just one of those things where you just went, okay. But then, like I say, 2 or 3 years ago, when Stoller started carrying lab-grown, we got some in on memo and started looking at them. And we slowly embraced it. I mean, I've always wanted to, be on that cutting edge or bleeding edge even sometimes. But we got them in and started, getting a couple loose stones, a couple pair of earrings. And I was always kind of waiting for that customer to ask me for them, and they never did. But this year at RJO, there was the big buzz on lab-grown. And so we made the decision at the beginning of the year to just jump in head over heels. Now, I don't.
Right.
I'm not exclusively lab grown. I still have mined goods here, but we got a little bit of everything. So we're experimenting with it and seeing where it goes.
Well, and the thing that I was so interested to talk with Joy today is that they're exclusively online, but not really exclusively,
Right.
because we are in your showroom, aren't we?
Right.
So tell us a little bit about how this showroom came to be and why what kind of struggles did you have with online, or why did you have to open this?
Sure. So, having been doing exclusively lab-created diamonds always, we don't offer any mined goods of any sort, whether it's gemstones or diamonds. Everything's lab-created. And initially in the Midwest, it wasn't a well-embraced concept.
Right.
So when we're talking about 2011, our entire customer base was probably East Coast, West Coast. So there really wasn't much of a need for a space for a customer to be present here in our little shoot offices. We've always been here. But as awareness and education became more and more available to consumers and people could see the benefits, we started to get people locally, and by locally I mean Michigan,
Wisconsin,
Minnesota, Iowa,
Midwest.
Illinois, so the Midwest.
Sure.
People would say, hey, I want to come see you. I'm going to drive over and see you. And when it was just cubicles, that wasn't terribly conducive.
Right.
So we built this space and opened it up in November of 2016. 2017, excuse me, and opened it up so people could come and see things in person.
So I got to tell you how we got here. This is very funny. Doug and I are always talking about what's going to be interesting for Jimmy Cast and what jewelers want to hear about.
Yeah.
And I said, well, you know what, Doug, you're just getting into lab grown, and you and I have been kind of excited about it for a while. Let's talk about lab grown diamonds. Then he calls me while I'm at my dad's house in Little Chute, Wisconsin, and he says, have you ever heard of EcoDiamonds? And yeah, I think they're above a shoe store here in town. Yeah, he says, yeah, EcoDiamonds, Little Chute, Wisconsin.
Yep.
This is my friend Doug from Atlanta, Georgia. So you guys are doing something great with SEO. You guys clearly know your SEO, right, Doug?
That's right. I was shocked. I mean, I just started Googling about lab-grown diamonds, and I mean, I think they were probably on my second page of either, and I don't know if it was a paid search or organic, but they popped up, and I was Googling, I believe, like lab-grown Atlanta or something like that, because I wanted to see what my competition was here in Atlanta, and you guys show up. I mean, you're doing a great job with whatever you're doing there with your SEO or your Google paid AdWords or whatever, so keep it up.
Awesome, thanks.
Well, okay, so let's talk about this. You're doing two things that I think are incredibly bold. And one is you're exclusively lab-grown diamonds. And number two, well, actually, this is number one, you're almost exclusively online. Where was your first customer come? Where did your first sale come from?
Well, the website and probably East Coast. Would have been our first, yep. So finding us online, researching lab-created diamonds, and you would be surprised when you think about the investment that people are making and the fact that jewelry is primarily about aesthetics. It's incredible to me, as it always has been. I think it kind of dates me to say, like, I can't believe people will buy things on the internet.
Right.
But I come from an era where that just wasn't done. And so to see people spending exorbitant amounts of money, sight unseen, on the internet, I would say one of my biggest memories is selling a diamond that was $14,000, just a loose stone.
Oh, wow.
To a customer in Washington. They had no access to come visit us. And this young man was just beside himself, putting basically something he'd saved up for years into our hands. And
Did he come here?
No, he did not. No,
Oh my goodness.
I worked with him over the phone. He found our website and he placed his order and he loved it. So while there are many people who want to see and touch things, we're more and more evolving into a world where people will buy sight unseen if they have the confidence in your brand and in your product and in your company.
Wow. So what did you think of that story?
That's amazing. I mean, that's everybody's dream for an internet sale.
Yeah. So tell us, how did you, all right, so Doug and I know he's dying and I'm dying to know. How did you guys say, before we signed on here, Joy told me that they were actually in possession of several URLs.
Oh, wow.
And what made you decide on EcoDiamond? Let's go over after that as a business.
So what's interesting is I'm fascinated by, even though I'm not a scientist and I can't explain a lot about, how does the chamber create I can't get really techie with you, but the science of it fascinates me.
Yeah.
And once that kind of drew us in attention-wise to say, hey, we love how does this technology work? How can a diamond be created in a lab? What are they good for? And to learn more and more layers, I mean, lab-created diamonds have been widely used since the 50s. For technology.
Right.
So, and yeah, there had to be an evolution and everything, but once we sort of got sucked in and enamored with the technology side, to understand the benefits of saying, okay, not all mine diamonds are conflict diamonds. They're not.
Right.
Some are.
Right.
You don't
Exactly.
know.
Right.
You've got this big question mark. So when you look at stewardship of the earth and being good to the earth, the data shows that a lab created is less disruptive to the earth.
Right.
If you look at the possibility of violence surrounding your diamond and knowing that when it comes from a laboratory that you have a relationship with, you don't have to worry about that. Then adding that piece that tells us scientifically that every positive property we want in a diamond exists in our lab created diamonds, it just became a passion and a huge no-brainer for us. And the reason why we offer lab created gemstones exclusively is because it's a mission, it's a purpose, and it's a passion where we're not attempting to sell from every category.
Right.
This is what we love. We do it for a reason. We believe in it. There are fringe benefits such as price savings and other things like that, but it's a belief system. It's not just about a business. So what started as like the business angle of it, of saying, hey, this is great technology and hey, you can save money, evolved into much more than that, because we want our belief system to be portrayed in every piece that we offer. So not only do we do lab created diamonds and gemstones, we do as much as we can with recycled precious metals, and we do as much as we can with labor that we're confident in. It's art, it's craftsmanship, and it's like a whole thing. It's a whole picture of what we believe in and what we love.
Okay.
Well, Joy, let me ask you a question. Have you been able to notice a difference between an HPHD diamond and a CVD diamond?
Not just by looking at them and using them. So one of the things that we look for, obviously, our certifications. We do offer some colored lab created diamonds that have to be done HPHD, but the majority of what we offer is CVD. So the differences that some people talk about, I can't really see them. I can't perceive them in how the pieces wear, and what the quality of the stones are.
Yeah. Well, now, Jimmy, I just want to bring up a controversial issue on all this stuff. And that is because that's what we do here.
That's what we do.
But, so in my quest to try to learn about this, a couple things have happened. One, actually, the more that I learn about lab-grown diamonds, the more I learn about natural diamonds. And it's been really interesting. But the challenge that I think a retailer faces is dealing with all the propaganda on both sides of the fence, both on the natural side and on the lab grown. Because you can get a report to tell you whatever you want it to tell you, and we're all dying to know the truth, and we are all willing to embrace the truth because, there's good stories on both sides of the fence so far, and I don't even know where I'm necessarily going with my question other than I just wonder, how do we cut through the propaganda that, like I say, that both sides are throwing at us? And there's a new report actually coming out tomorrow from the Diamond Producers Association that is going to show you all the good a natural diamond is doing and the cost of doing it and things like that. And then on the lab-grown side, everything is so proprietary that nobody's technically divulging 100% how much electricity are they using, what is it costing them in energy to produce a lab-grown diamond. They still all have to be cut, somewhere. And so we're still using cutting, factories in China and India and things like that. So I can't get 100% on board with that idea of it being, perfect in a perfect world. But definitely it's an improvement, and definitely there are some huge advantages. To me, the biggest advantage today with the information that we do know is pricing. We are definitely finally seeing, that 30 to 40% price difference between a 1 carat diamond. And that's what I'm going after. I'm just going after the price difference right now. Now, if somebody can prove to me one way or the other, I'm going to present both facets of it and both stories of it, but I'm not gonna jump on it yet.
This is what I believe, and I think it holds true whether we're talking about jewelry or business or relationships, people, whatever you want to discuss.
Yeah.
Any broad concept can be any number of things. It's reliant upon the people that carry out the day-to-day tasks and put their purpose and their mission into things,
right,
to uphold the higher standards that we're looking for. And
Yeah.
I think that's why, you mentioned about how there are so many lab-created diamond providers, like really aggressively pursuing jewelers to take on their goods.
Yeah.
And I think you can run into, just as you can in any other industry or any other business, unscrupulous people. So
Sure.
relationships matter. People matter. And as business people, we have an obligation to understand who our partners are and build relationships with people that share our values.
Yeah.
And that's really the only way we can do what we're trying to do for our customers, which is share a product that we can truly believe in and that they can be comfortable with and believe in,
Yeah.
because we've done that legwork.
She wouldn't tell me who her suppliers are.
And that's good. What's
You
been
have to go and build your own relationships. I have built, you go and build. Now you go and build as well.
Well, Jimmy,
it's so funny.
What's been so fun with what I've been doing, so I've got a billboard on I-75. I'm on the radio now with all this stuff. We've been blasting it on Facebook and Instagram. And I can't tell you how many diamond dealers have just shown up. Lab-grown diamond dealers are coming out of the woodwork that I didn't even know existed.
Yep.
And they're like, hey.
That's because you're in Atlanta.
You have to hide in Little Chute, and then they can't find you.
Yeah, really, there you go.
Come to Little Chute, above the bakery in Little Chute, Wisconsin.
But Joy, I got to say, I love your name and I love your logo. You guys have done an amazing job. And I am just, kudos to you guys. And I'm just really, from a jeweler to another jeweler, I'm really proud of what you guys are doing and what you're standing for and the accomplishments that you've made. And I think it's only going to just skyrocket in the future for you. But
I think so too. As a matter of fact, I've told her off camera and off microphone, if I was ever going to do a jewelry store again, this is exactly how I would do it.
yeah,
Mom and Dad, Mom and Pop, running it. These are all prototypes. They didn't spend $400,000 on inventory, the prototypes, and then you've got your vendors and your relationships. And, what's really, I think, is just truly fascinating. And I think a lot of us independent jewelers will think the same thing, too, is that you were an internet business person first, okay?
Yep.
So you were an e-commerce person, then you turned into a jewelry or diamond supplier online, which is totally opposite of how we've always done it. I know Doug was a bench guy first,
Yep.
Yeah. Well, Joy, what I always tell people is that, all we do here at our stores, we sell cold metal and hard rocks. But it's always the story that goes behind it. Either the story of what the customer is celebrating or commemorating, or the story behind how we got, where the product came from, how it was created, and that's always been the fun part for me, is just hearing stories and being a part of somebody's life and being able to, make a difference somehow, some way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There are a lot of things that people can sell, but the meaning in the pieces that we create for people is what makes it very rewarding to do.
Yeah. Now, would you say the majority of your sales are engagement rings, or are they all kinds of things?
I would say that we do cover a broad range, but bridal jewelry is probably number one.
Okay.
Next would be gifts for mom, whether it's at Mother's Day or any time of year. We do a lot of family pieces.
Okay.
What I find very interesting is you and Ben have built this business out of Little Chute, Wisconsin. So it's not. This is not traffic dependent.
Nope.
This is not pylon sign dependent.
Nope.
Radio or billboard dependent.
Nope.
And that's very interesting. So tell me about where some of your customers have come from that want to come into this building.
So I would say our longest distance, it's a tie, it's a split, because our longest distance U.S. would be Tennessee. But we actually had a young lady whose now husband is from Little Chute, but she's from Mexico. So does that count? She came all the way from Mexico to see my store.
No,
okay.
Tennessee.
So Tennessee is the farthest, but we see people from Tennessee, from Illinois, from Iowa, from Minnesota, obviously all different parts of Wisconsin.
That want to come here
Yes.
to Little Chute, Wisconsin.
Yes.
Okay. Now, I'm not
That's
trying
amazing.
to knock Little Chute. I'm not trying to knock Little
We
Chute.
have a working windmill.
Yes, we have
Come on
an
now.
actual.
An actual working windmill within walking distance of my store.
Doug has
You
seen
should
it.
get one, Doug.
But but isn't that amazing? How
it's incredible.
You've built a company where people. Why would they drive that far? Why?
I have to say that the only explanation I have, I am just as amazed as you are. And I'm also amazed when people will lay down, like I said, enormous sums of money without ever meeting me in person, without ever seeing our store, without really seeing anything in person. But the only explanation I have for people's willingness to come and visit is that the meaning and the importance of these pieces is so great that if they are looking locally and they're not having that connection, that emotional connection to what they're finding,
right,
they're willing to branch out. And
Yeah.
they'll branch out as far as they have to go until they feel that, yes, that it's an emotional purchase. We're not buying cars. We're not buying work clothes.
Right.
It's a very emotional purchase. And that's the only explanation I have as to why people will go to such lengths. Why will people save up for 5 years and spend just crazy amounts of money on something so tiny? It's emotional.
That's what we're all trying to figure out, right, Doug?
Exactly.
But the one thing I guess I am so glad and I'm so appreciative that you wanted to talk to us today or you were willing to talk to us today.
Right, yeah.
I think it was because I'm from Little Chute and she knows my dad. I think that was there are folks that are very anti-mined or anti-lab-grown diamonds, period. But you know what? Were those same people anti-fracture filled or moissanite, or were they anti-Pandora when Pandora started? What? You want to sell a silver bead for $30? I'm selling stuff out of my, this case over here for $5. And so I think, the time has passed, Doug, and I think maybe you'll agree that the time has passed where we gotta open our minds to this, because there's, as Joy said, there's a story there, and there's and are we business people or are we museum curators?
Yeah.
What are we selling and giving people what they want, or are we going to stand behind our beliefs to our graves, and not be open to this new world and technology? I'm sorry, am I if I'm offending anybody, I apologize, but I'm just saying, man, we just need to give peace a chance, what do you
Jimmy,
think, Doug?
Jimmy, being that I'm from Detroit, it reminds me of Henry Ford when he first introduced the car, and you had all these guys that made the buggy whips, and they scoffed him, and they just figured this newfangled contraption would disappear. And
and that your body would explode if you went over 30 miles an hour or something like that.
And but here these buggy whip guys that made buggy whips ended up going out of business because they couldn't figure out what business they were in. And what business they were in was fine leather goods. And what they needed to do is just make a shift or a change, and instead of making buggy whips, make steering wheel covers or seat covers. And and just adapt to where technology is changing or where our world is changing, and I really feel for the jeweler that is sticking his head in the sand and not embracing any of this, because it's not going away. It's here to stay, and if anything, it's going to grow, and we're going to see. I mean, I don't know what we're going to see, but we're going to see a lot of disruption and a lot of changes in these next few years.
Right. And we need to choose whether we're going to embrace it or stick our head in the sand.
Right.
So what you were talking about before about the debate between, how much energy it takes and all of those things, I can almost say that those answers and those debates are irrelevant, because the reality is that an emerging customer wants these lab-created diamonds. And so all of those nuances are not going to matter if we're not serving the customer and giving them what they want.
Right. It's all a perception. And so it doesn't really matter reality. It's a perception. And it's what they're believing and what they want to believe and accept. And we have to learn how to embrace it and work with it and communicate with the way that they want to be communicated to. So.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. So, Joy, do me a favor.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for all of the independent jewelers who were bench guys first, then jewelers, and then, we sell some things on e-commerce? Do you have so you're an e-commerce person first. Do you have any advice for people like this? And I realize you're teaching your own competition, but Doug and I know 4 people in this country that are listening to this podcast are actually going to do it. So don't worry about that.
So I would say that the same business rules that apply to your brick and mortar apply to e-commerce, except for how you get your information out there. And truly, you have to find a beautiful balance of organic and paid search. And that might mean something different to each individual business. What's most important is that the information we're putting out there and providing is relevant, and it's what the customer wants. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't change whether you're in e-commerce or you're in a brick and mortar store. If customers walk into your store and you don't answer the questions that they have in a way that's satisfactory to them, they're not going to buy from you. It's the same thing online. How do you make them feel comfortable, especially because it is an emotional purchase?
Sure.
So you have to find ways to do that online if you're going to.
Well, Doug, what was the book that you and I read?
You ask and they answer, they ask and we answer, or something like that.
Incredible book. So that ties what Joy's talking about into their stories and their questions that they're going to have.
Exactly. Yeah, can't be afraid to answer the questions that the customer wants to ask.
Yeah, who wrote that book?
Oh man, I don't know. We'll have to.
They ask you answer.
Yeah, I'll find it.
All right, we're powering down. We're losing Doug right now.
All right.
Yep, the phone is shutting down.
Bye.
Wow, this baby's like 900 degrees too. It's, if we can put a man on the moon
Yeah, I know.
and make diamonds in a chamber,
Yeah.
why can't we make a stinking cell phone battery that lasts
Exactly.
for 12 hours?
Exactly. Joy's phone died, so you're not so technologically
I'm not.
advanced.
I never promised to be so.
So so my advice to Joy was get the book or listen to the book because we're audiobook peoples. They ask you answer because you know what? Now all of these jewelers are going to be going on your website EcoDiamond.com.
Yes.
What a great URL! These people were smart in buying that URL back in 2000 or so. Yeah, holy man! But they're all going to go on and they're going to want to see Joy and the puppy dog and the husband and the baby and they're going to want to hear your story. So we're going to want to see videos, right, Doug?
That's right.
So Joy, thank you so much for being here. We wish your husband could have been here. Doug, thank you for being there. We love you and you're amazing. And I'm so appreciative that Joy, I think she taught us a lot today.
Oh, she did. I really thoroughly enjoyed this show. Thanks, Joy.
Great to meet you, Doug.
All right. Bye, everybody. See you next time.
Bye.
Jamie Cast.